Welcome back, lovely ladies. If you want to become the woman of your dreams, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. And join our Patreon for even more exclusive content. Now, let's dive into today's story.
I remember the morning Beth left for that trip. She had booked it a week in advance, a business meeting with a major clothing manufacturer in China. She was supposed to be gone for 7 full days. That morning, after an early drive to the airport, I gave her a long, warm hug near the drop-off curb. She wore a tailored charcoal suit and a sleek ponytail. Her cheekbones looked sharp as ever, and that subtle floral perfume lingered even after she turned and waved goodbye. I stood there a moment, feeling a mix of guilt and anticipation. I knew what I was planning would be risky, maybe even foolish, but I couldn't deny that the urge was too powerful to resist. My name is Roger Kent, age 43, average height, average build. I've never been a particularly masculine guy in appearance or demeanor. At 5'6" and around 142 pounds, I'm on the smaller side. My wife, Beth, is taller than me by 2 inches and in excellent shape. She's always taken pride in her physique and her grooming, and I guess I've always admired that about her. We married right out of college and enjoyed 20 years of marriage. Beth's job as a third buyer for a large department store's women's fashion line often took her overseas. Meanwhile, I worked from home, handling investment accounts. My flexible schedule gave me plenty of solitude, and in that solitude, a secret side of me thrived. I had never told Beth about it, my penchant for women's clothes, dresses, skirts, heels, makeup, the whole ensemble. Over the years, I had quietly assembled a wardrobe and cosmetics kit. Whenever Beth traveled, I would indulge. There was no better escape from the monotony of numbers and ledgers than spending a few days as Rachel, the name I used to think of myself when I dressed up. I tried going out as Rachel a few times in the past, visiting certain bars known for being friendly to people like me. Mostly, though, I kept this secret locked away. I was convinced Beth would never understand. She wasn't the most patient person when challenged, and the idea of her reaction frightened me. With Beth gone for a full week, I intended to immerse myself completely. I wouldn't just slip into something for an hour or two. I planned to spend days as my feminine alter ego. I even bought a new wig, some expensive glue-on forms, and a fresh set of lingerie. The anticipation was thrilling. I waited until she texted that her plane had taken off. Only then did I relax, draw a bath, and begin the transformation process, shaving my legs, arms, chest, every surface that might show stubble, and enjoying the sensation of silky skin against the warm water. I had done this routine many times before, but never for such a long, uninterrupted stretch. An hour later, I was upstairs in our bedroom, surrounded by half a dozen outfits I might wear. I decided on something classic for my first evening, a fitted rose-colored pencil dress that clung to my newly enhanced curves. The prosthetic forms were expensive but convincing, and I had a special garment designed to give me a smooth feminine contour below the waist. I took my time with makeup, carefully blending foundation, shaping my brows and choosing a subdued eyeshadow. A subtle pink lipstick, pearl earrings, a delicate necklace, and a light spritz of my wife's perfume completed the look. Standing there, I admired my reflection. I looked every bit like a stylish, mature woman heading out for a dinner party. By mid-afternoon, I was in my office, reviewing some investment documents. The feeling of silk and hosiery, the click of my heels on hardwood, the scent of perfume as I shifted in my seat, it all filled me with a strange, calming energy. I lost track of time until the doorbell rang. That startled me. I wasn't expecting anyone. Peering through the window, I saw a courier from my firm. They sometimes sent documents needing immediate signatures. My heart pounded. Should I answer the door like this? I hesitated. Normally, I'd just say I was Roger, sign, and he'd leave. But dressed as I was, there was no way he'd believe I was Roger Kent. He didn't know me personally, though. Maybe I could pretend to be someone else. Before I knew it, I was at the door, opening it a crack. The courier, a young man in his early 20s with an uncertain smile, asked, "I have papers for a Mr. Kent. Is he here?" I put on my softest voice. "I'm afraid Roger just stepped out. I'm, Rachel, his relative. I can sign for them if that's all right." He looked me over, a bit puzzled but not suspicious. "Oh, sure. I guess that's fine. It's just some documents he needs to review by tomorrow." "Come in," I said, stepping aside, trying to stay calm. I could feel my heart beating in my ears. The young man entered. I offered him a glass of water and tried to act composed, maybe even friendly. I told him Roger would be back shortly, and I'd make sure the documents got to him. The courier seemed shy and didn't linger. Within minutes, he was gone. As the door closed, I felt a rush of relief and excitement. I had interacted with someone face to face in my feminine persona without a catastrophic outcome. It was a small thing, but it buoyed my confidence. Maybe I'd even consider going out that night. It was Friday, after all. I changed into something a bit more daring, one of Beth's dresses, something strappy and eye-catching. Normally, I'd never risk wearing her clothes, but temptation got the best of me. With a careful step and a final glance in the mirror, I decided to visit a local spot known for being open-minded. I grabbed a small handbag and headed out. The city's nightlife had its pockets where people like me could blend in. I found a bar I'd visited once before. It attracted a mixture of artists, performers, and people experimenting with fashion. I felt relatively safe there. Inside, I sipped a drink, chatted lightly with a few strangers who complimented my outfit, and tried to be careful not to draw too much attention. A group of individuals at the corner of the bar caught my eye. They were tall, fashion-forward, with dramatic makeup and edgy hairstyles. They seemed to be observing everyone. As I mingled, I made a mistake. I overheard someone at the next table criticizing a less polished dresser, making a cruel joke about their appearance. Before I knew it, I chuckled along. It was a nervous, insecure response. I wanted to blend with the cool crowd, but it was the wrong move. One of the tall figures, a statuesque person with sharp eyes and high cheekbones, took note. They approached, towering over me. "So, you think you're better than everyone else?" Their voice was calm but firm. I stammered. No. Before I could explain, I felt a sharp sting in my neck. Everything went blurry. The sounds of the bar faded. I vaguely remember being led outside, supported by strong arms. I couldn't resist. My limbs wouldn't cooperate. The world turned dark. When I woke, I was lying on a couch in a dimly lit room. My wrists were bound. My head throbbed. I tried to focus my eyes. A figure stepped into view, the same person from the bar. "Awake now?" "Good," they said, their voice low. "You judged people for not looking as polished as you. That was a mistake. Let's show you how it feels to be shaped by someone else's standards." I tried to speak, my voice cracking. What do you want? Please, I don't have any money with me." They waved a hand dismissively. "This isn't about money. It's about teaching a lesson. You see, we know you're not just some woman. We know who you really are. We found your online presence, the hints you left. You like to dress up, be the pretty one, feel superior. Now, let's see how you handle a change." I struggled to understand what they meant. A second person stepped forward with a case of tools, hair dye, makeup, strange-looking implements. Over the next few hours, they worked on me. I was too weak and disoriented to put up much of a fight. They stripped away my carefully crafted look. They shaved off my eyebrows, applied permanent inks and dyes, pierced my lip and nose with hoops I couldn't remove, dyed my hair a shocking shade of pink, and dressed me in clothes that looked like a garish caricature. Fishnets, a leather jacket, heavy boots. They even inked my skin with small tattoos, a pattern on my shoulder, a tramp stamp design on my back, all without my permission. I remember the feeling of helplessness, the humiliation of it all. They never touched me in a way that would cross certain lines, but they robbed me of my dignity. By the time they were done, I barely recognized the person in the mirror, a hollow-eyed figure with a mismatched style, permanent makeup that couldn't be washed off, piercings that couldn't be simply removed. They gave me a new name, Kiki. I pleaded, "Please, why are you doing this?" Their leader sneered, "So that when you look at yourself, you understand that appearance can be twisted without mercy. Maybe next time you won't mock others, and don't think this ends here." They loaded me onto the back of a motorcycle driven by someone named Gina. We rode to the rough side of town, stopping at a notorious biker hangout. The building was grimy, the neon sign half broken. Gina dragged me inside. "Hey everyone," she called out. "Meet Kiki. She needs to learn how to be useful." The crowd was tough-looking, tattooed men and women with hardened faces. They barked orders at me. "Clean that corner, fetch some drinks, shine those boots." With shaking hands, I did what they said. They mocked my voice, my appearance, calling me names. I spent what felt like an entire day running errands, wiping tables, fetching towels, menial, degrading tasks. I wasn't harmed physically beyond what they'd already done, but the psychological strain was enormous. I felt like a sideshow attraction, put there purely for their amusement. Eventually, during a moment when no one watched closely, I slipped out a back door into an alley. I stumbled through the streets until, by some stroke of luck, I spotted a taxi. With no money, I begged the driver to take me home, promising I'd figure out payment later. He must have seen the desperation in my eyes. He took me home, and I offered him what few kind words I could muster. He asked no questions. Maybe he'd seen stranger things in this city. After a tense, silent ride, we reached my driveway. I fumbled with the hidden spare key under the mat and stepped inside, expecting the quiet darkness of an empty home. Instead, I found Beth sitting in the living room, her arms crossed. She must have returned early. Her face was a mask of shock and anger when she saw me. Before I could explain, her voice sliced through the silence. "What on earth happened to you, Roger? What have you done?" I tried to speak, but my voice came out uneven. I can explain." "Oh, I'm sure you can," she said coldly. "When I couldn't reach you, I came back early. Imagine my surprise finding your hidden wardrobe, your makeup, your wigs, and then you show up looking like this." She gestured at my disheveled, shocking appearance. I reached for her hand, but she stepped back. "Don't," she said. "I'm too angry to deal with this right now. Sleep on the couch. We'll talk in the morning." Exhausted, dirty, and emotionally drained, I curled up on the couch under a thin blanket. The next day, under the unforgiving morning light, Beth demanded answers. I confessed my long-held secret about dressing up. I tried to explain that I never wanted things to go this far, that I was attacked and transformed against my will. My speech was marred by the new piercings and swollen tongue. I couldn't hide anything now. The wardrobe was found, my appearance unrecognizable. She asked whether I wanted to live as a woman permanently, if I had been planning a double life. I could only shake my head. I told her I just couldn't resist dressing now and then, that it wasn't meant to hurt anyone. Beth listened, arms folded, her face set in an expression I'd never seen before. Betrayal, disbelief, anger, pity, maybe a combination of all four. Finally, she spoke. Our marriage can't go on like this, Roger. Or should I say, Kiki? You've lied to me for years. I'm not just upset about the clothes. I'm furious about the deceit. And now look at yourself. You've been gone for days, and I returned to find my husband unrecognizable. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I tried to stand, tried to approach her, but Beth raised a hand, stopping me. No, I'm not sure I want to hear more right now. I need time to think. But I'll tell you this, you're not going to waltz back into your old life as if nothing happened. The person I married is gone. If you want to stay under this roof, there will be conditions. I should have known Beth's sense of control and order would come into play. Later that evening, she laid out a series of rules. She had prepared a contract, typed, printed, and waiting on the kitchen table. She demanded that I hand over control of our finances, that I adhere to a strict routine as a kind of housekeeper. There would be no discussions about us as a couple. Our marriage was effectively over, she said, though we would formalize it in time. For now, I'd be allowed to stay in a guest room. I'd have to dress modestly. No more of my old glamorous outfits. No more wearing her clothing. Only plain, utilitarian garments. She had already disposed of or locked away everything I once owned. In return, I'd have shelter, at least until I could figure out my next steps. I had no leverage. Looking in the mirror, I saw someone who would never pass as Roger Kent again. The piercings, the hair, the tattoos, and the permanent makeup had altered my appearance drastically. My old professional life at the investment firm seemed impossible now. Imagine walking into that office like this. I was trapped. So I signed her contract. I became, in effect, the hired help. I cleaned the house, cooked her meals, ironed her clothes, and ran errands wearing shapeless dresses and sensible shoes. My days were filled with chores and quiet humiliation. Beth moved into the master bedroom alone, while I stayed in the spare room. Over the months that followed, I discovered she was planning a future without me, spending time with old acquaintances and even reconnecting with an old friend named Jim. The transformations to my body lingered. I tried to remove the piercings, but they had been fixed with strong metal closures. Permanent makeup around my eyes and lips changed my face even after I tried bleaching my skin. I was forced to style my pink hair into something less outrageous over time, but it remained a reminder of that awful night. My body changed too. Without the freedom to present as Roger, I adjusted my routine toward what Beth demanded. At one point, after prolonged discussions that were more like one-sided orders, she arranged for me to see a specialist who prescribed hormones that would soften my features further. She insisted it was necessary to fit my new role. I never really had a choice. Over time, my figure became more conventionally feminine, which only made returning to my old life more complicated. For 2 whole years, I lived this way, dressing in plain clothes, doing all the housework, and avoiding confrontation. I hardly left the house except to pick up groceries. The neighbors must have wondered what happened to Roger. If they asked Beth, she might have told them I had moved away. I never spoke to them. I never had the courage. At the end of those 2 years, Beth summoned me to the kitchen table again, just as she had when she gave me that contract. "It's time," she said, tapping a stack of documents. "Our divorce is finalized." My heart sank. Even though I knew it was coming, hearing those words still hurt. 2 decades of marriage were done just like that. Beth continued, "I'm leaving with Jim. We've sold the house. You'll have to find your own place. I know what the contract said, about handing everything over to me, but I didn't take everything. I might have been cruel these past 2 years, but I never touched your private investments and annuities. I managed them well, and they've grown. You're not penniless, Kiki. I'm not vindictive enough to ruin you financially. I'm just done being lied to, and done living in uncertainty. You have funds if you choose to use them. The lawyer will give you the details. I was stunned. I had spent so long feeling trapped that I never imagined being released. Why are you telling me this now? I asked quietly, still wearing the modest clothes and the permanent marks of my ordeal. She sighed. Because I can't keep you here forever. Because neither of us is happy. Because I think it's time we both moved on. I don't claim to understand why you hid all this for so long. Maybe if I had known earlier, things would be different, but I can't rewrite the past. She stood up, gathered her purse. I'll be out by tomorrow morning. The movers are coming. You can stay for a few more days if you need, but after that, you're on your own. I stared at the empty dining room after she left. Just like that, my life had changed again. I had no idea where to go, what to do, or who I would become. I could barely look at my own reflection without recalling the humiliation of that night and the 2 years of penance that followed. I had no friends left that I could call easily. My old workplace would never recognize me, and how could I explain everything that happened? The next morning, Beth and Jim loaded a truck with boxes. He barely looked at me. Beth looked at me one last time with an expression I couldn't fully decipher. Maybe regret, maybe sadness. Then they drove off. I closed the front door, walked through the empty rooms one last time, and gathered my own modest belongings. It was time to move on, though I had no map. I stepped out of the house carrying a small suitcase of clothes, none of them the alluring dresses I once loved, just practical attire, and a portfolio with the financial details Beth left me. I walked down the street. The sky was pale blue. A few neighbors watched from afar, but no one approached me. The world felt strange and quiet. I didn't know where I would end up. I only knew that the life I once had, Roger and Beth, a tidy home, a promising career, was gone. I looked down at my reflection in a parked car's window. I saw the pinkish hue of my hair, the delicate curve of my cheeks, the faint lines of permanent cosmetics around my eyes. My clothing was plain now, not fancy, not tattered, just simple. I didn't see a man, nor the polished illusion of a glamorous woman I once aimed for. I saw someone caught between worlds, faced with an uncertain future. But despite the uncertainty, I was free from the old contract. The question was not about who I had been or who I tried to be, but what I could do now with the time and resources I still had. I had made mistakes that led me here. I stood at a crossroads, unsure which path to take, but knowing I had no choice but to walk forward. The door behind me had closed forever.
Did you like the story? Hit that like button and tell me what you thought in the comments. Do you want to hear more stories? Subscribe and hit the bell. For exclusive content and early access, check out our Patreon. You can find the link in the description, or you can watch any of the videos shown on my right. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.